When my husband, Daniel, passed away, it felt as though my entire world crumbled around me. We had shared more than 20 years together. Our marriage had its challenges, of course, but Daniel was truly my partner in every way that mattered. His sudden absence left me hollow, convinced that I might never find my footing again. Our son Matthew was just 17 when we lost him. At first, I assumed his quietness was simply grief. But as the days stretched into weeks, I began to notice something deeper taking hold. Daniel had always been the anchor in our family, the steady, composed presence Matthew leaned on whenever life became too much. His death came without warning. One night of chest pain turned into an emergency hospital visit, and then, devastatingly, Matthew and I walked out of that hospital alone. That loss stole more than just Matthew's father. It stripped away his sense of direction. I can still see myself in that sterile hospital corridor, the harsh fluorescent lights humming above, holding Matthew as he wept against my shoulder. His sobs were raw, frantic, and heartbreaking. Then came the funeral. Neighbors arrived with casseroles, the phone rang constantly with condolences, but when all of that faded, our house was left in an unbearable silence. It wasn't peaceful silence, pressed down on us like a weight. Matthew began changing almost immediately afterward. He no longer joined me at the dinner table, choosing instead to eat alone in his room. He spoke rarely, answering my questions with single words or silent nods. The light-hearted, sarcastic boy I knew seemed to vanish overnight. At first, I blamed grief. How could losing a father at such a crucial age not shake him? But as months passed, I realized something more troubling was happening. One night, I heard him pacing in his room long after midnight, footsteps echoing back and forth. When I knocked, he opened the door with pale skin and wide, sleepless eyes. He brushed it off, saying he simply couldn't rest. But inside his room, I saw drawings scattered across his desk, not his usual sketches, but disturbing images. Faceless figures, storm-filled skies, ominous shapes. When I asked, he snapped, shoving the papers into a drawer and insisting it was nothing. I chose not to press him, telling myself maybe it was just his way of processing grief. Yet the more I observed, the more alarmed I became. He stopped meeting friends. His phone sat silent for days. His teachers began calling, worried about his slipping grades and withdrawn behavior. Then came the nights I found him alone in the living room, sitting in the dark. When I asked what he was doing, his answer was always the same, "I don't know," before retreating upstairs. One night, around 2 a.m, I came down for a glass of water and found him standing by the front door, staring outside as if waiting for someone. When I gently touched his shoulder, he jolted violently, his eyes glassy, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Dad's out there." My chest ached at his words. He meant Daniel, but Daniel wasn't coming back. I tried to soothe him, explaining it must have been a dream, but he grew agitated, insisting he could feel his father's presence nearby. That was the moment I knew this grief was spiraling into something I couldn't handle alone. I reached out to Dr. Harris, a grief counselor who specialized in helping teenagers. Matthew resisted at first, saying therapy was pointless, that no amount of talking could bring his father back. With gentle persuasion, he eventually agreed. In the beginning, he sat in silence during sessions, arms folded tightly across his chest. Dr. Harris reassured me that this was normal, that it might take time. Gradually, Matthew began to open up. He confessed feelings of guilt, though he didn't explain why. He admitted that he believed somehow Daniel's death was his fault, an impossible thought, but one he carried like a burden. Dr. Harris explained that it wasn't uncommon for children to internalize grief, convincing themselves they could have prevented the loss. Still, Matthew's guilt seemed heavier, almost haunting. He described recurring dreams where Daniel appeared in the doorway, trying to speak but unable to form words. Hearing this unsettled me. I didn't want my son's nights filled with fear or silent accusations. Dr. Harris encouraged me to create space for Matthew to talk openly about his father, to share memories without fear of judgment. So, one evening I sat with him at the kitchen table. For the first time in months we talked about Daniel. His booming laugh, his little quirks, even his habit of burning pancakes every Sunday morning. Matthew smiled through his tears, and in that moment, I saw a small weight lift off his shoulders. But the strangeness never fully vanished. Some nights, I still caught him staring into the shadows. Sometimes he asked me unsettling questions. Do you think Dad watches us? Or what if he never really left? I always reassured him that while Daniel was no longer physically here, his love remained with us. Over time, Matthew began finding healthier outlets. He traded dark sketches for journaling. He joined a support group for teens who had lost parents, finally connecting with others who understood his pain. Slowly, pieces of the boy he once was began returning, though he was forever altered by what we endured. Grief changes people. It reshapes them in ways they may never fully understand. Looking back, I realized Matthew's strange behavior was never about being odd. He was simply lost, drowning in emotions far too heavy for a teenager to carry alone. What he needed was guidance, patience, and unconditional love. He needed to understand that feeling broken was human, and healing didn't mean forgetting Daniel. It meant learning to carry his father's love forward. Now, years later, Matthew is in college studying psychology. He hopes to help others who face the same struggles he once did. He often tells me that losing his dad will always be the hardest thing he's ever endured. But it taught him resilience, compassion, and strength. As his mother, though I wish I could have taken every ounce of his pain away, I am endlessly proud of the man he is becoming. Grief can make people act in ways that seem strange, withdrawn, restless, or even lost in shadows. But I've learned those behaviors are cries for help, not weakness. If we listen carefully and love without judgment, even the darkest moments can guide us toward healing. In the end, Matthew wasn't strange at all. He was broken, searching for his father in the darkness. And with time, patience, and love, he found himself again, stronger than before.